One of the biggest deals in Power of the Primes is the fact that we got brand new Dinobots, which means a brand new Grimlock. And after so many reimaginings, we finally have one that goes straight to his G1 roots. Ever since we've gotten like Fall of Cybertron, we got an RID, and like even the Classics one was based on his Pretender toy. So now we finally get to go back to his G1 aesthetic. Now, he's got 3 forms to go through, and that's going to make this take a while, so let's hammer this through as fast as possible, and we will try to get you in and out as cleanly as I can. For starters, he is clearly his classic T-Rex form, defiantly 80s in style. Very upright, very much, that's not how the dinosaurs really looked. Yes, we know. Now, if you are going to be a purist about this, I will go ahead and let you know he does balance in a more modern horizontal T-Rex stature, but that's not Grimlock, is it? Grimlock is a Dinobot. Grimlock is so dumb, he doesn't realize that the T-Rex is supposed to be horizontal. That's how I tend to think of it. It's like, he's not smart enough to know how a T-Rex stands. So, just like the G1 Dinobots and just like the others in Power of the Primes, he is cast in a very nice silver shade of plastic, nice and metallic all over. And then, of course, he has the same thing going for him that the other Dinobots do, which is some translucent parts painted with gold on the inside, recreating the look of their multi-layered elements of the G1 toy, except with no chrome, which is a bonus here, because guess what? Collectors don't like chrome. What we don't like, stickers. And unfortunately, he does have a bunch of them. They aren't in any terrible spots. You know, it recreates some of his G1 detailing effectively without being too much of a hindrance. So, okay, I will give this to you. At the very least, there are plenty of details on him that could have been done up as stickers that are paint, so I will give him credit there. So, the big thing about this toy is, proportionally, he's a little bit weird. So the way I describe this figure is he is a Voyager from the waist down and a Deluxe from the waist up. And it's a little bit jarring when you see just how ample his backside is. So, in order to find out why, we have to bring in the big guns. And I don't like to do this often, but we have to do this. We have to bring in the G1 Grimlock. And right off the bat, we can kind of tell what's going on here. So, G1 Grimlock has much thinner legs, which is more along the lines of what you'd expect out of a T-Rex. But that means his arms in robot mode don't look all that powerful, which is not very Grimlock. So, yeah, his arms had to be bulked out. And I guess that's pretty much how it went for the chest as well, because the chest is also a little bit bulkier than what we have here. And then, if we look to the back, let's investigate my biggest pet peeve, which is Grimlock's tail, the new Grimlock. His tail is absolutely enormous, which is a little bit unfortunate because it's not very T-Rex-like at that point. So this is because the legs just squeeze together in order to form the tail rather than flipping around like they do here on the G1. This allows the legs to blend in naturally with the lines of the T-Rex and create a much more pleasant-looking beast mode, whereas this just try to keep the design simple, I guess. So there you go. I guess a little bit of simplification, but also a little bit of let's do what's best for the robot mode, which that's what they go for sometimes. Okay, so playability. What can this guy do? Well, we have the mouth that can open nice and wide too. Head does go up and down. Ball joints on his tiny little T-Rex arms are a little bit hollow, so be a little bit careful with them. I don't think they're too fragile, but you wouldn't want anything to happen to him. Plenty of articulation here because this is what will become his robot mode arms, so you have that. The tail itself does also flex up and down. This is how you form the different positions of the T-Rex mode. You also have 2 pegs back here for Prime Masters to ride on. So you can have a little bit of Prime Master action with this toy. Not a whole lot in any of the more meaningful spots. Thankfully, they didn't put any on his head or anything. He also comes with 2 of these. Now, these are very obviously combiner feet, but they want you to believe that these are also accessories that he can use. They really aren't. I think on the packaging they tell you to put them here on his legs. Yeah, that looks right. So that's unfortunate. That's lame. And they'll get lamer once we go into the robot mode, which we should go ahead and get to that, shouldn't we? So, just like the G1 toy, head flip up, torso of the beast splits like so. And now we get to the parts that are different. So, the torso double hinges up and splits in the middle in order to form up here, just like so. The fists now flip outward rather than being on slides like the G1 toy was, and this one's really stuck. There we go. And then the tail is much simpler than it used to be, so we just split, flip these back up to create some nice heel spurs. And, well, if you want to clean up a little bit, you can do that, but essentially, that's what we have for our robot mode, and now he's out of frame. So let's get this back and up, and there's our very G1 looking Grimlock. Very simple transformation, very effective, and that's not a bad thing. Since he's got other things to do, best to keep him simple in some regards. So, you know, it's a Dinobot. The whole point of Dinobots were to keep it simple, so good on you. Head-wise, he is very much looking like the toy. Classic G1 Grimlock all the way through, and red-eyed, which is Hasbro's prerogative to match up with what the toy looks like rather than what the cartoon looks like. Or at the very least, that's their preference, and that's what they've gone with here. It doesn't look bad, but if you only grew up with the cartoon, you might be a little bit annoyed at the red, especially if you are like me and learn to identify Decepticons by the red. But, you know, it's a minor little point. The point is, he does look very, very nice. Now, we will get to the elephant in the room that I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know, and a lot have asked me about, and that's the fact that his entire torso is translucent plastic. And what worries I would have about that. One worry came from the shoulder assemblies. Now, I am happy to say that the way the shoulders work, it doesn't seem to put any real stress on the shoulders and the plastic of the torso itself. So I'm not really worried about the shoulders long term. I don't think I'd leave them in combiner form for too long, but I think for what it is, it's fine. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about the pegs that connect the torso halves together, because whether it's in beast mode, robot mode, combined mode, those pegs are together, which means there's constant pressure inside the peg sockets. So that gets me a little bit more than, say, the shoulder assemblies. So time will tell how the toy stands up. But man, this is where I really wish Takara was still doing their own versions of these things and just left that solid plastic. But whatever. So point is, looking over him, he does very much fit the classic G1 Grimlock vestige. He is looking extremely nice. Got a lot more red going on here, a little bit more black. And you can also start to see a little bit of sacrifice because of his form. Tiny little claws, so they don't get in the way of his hands in beast mode. Also, check out the added knuckles that he's got on his fists. That's a cool little detail. That's very, very much a Dinobot thing. I dig that. Well, a lot of everything does carry over from the beast mode. Pretty much everything you saw. There's his legs. There's his belly section. There's not a whole lot of new detail here, and he does come across very much like the original G1 toy, with the exception of this little flap in the back for the combiner mode. You can deal with that, just to let you know. It does fold up that way if you want, and then you can't even see it from the front. Hey, that's a little bit closer to what I want out of Grimlock. So really quick, let's go over what he can do now. Articulation-wise, the head is ball-jointed, a little bit of up and down, but mostly left and right. Universal shoulders, done in a very weird way, but it does give a good range of motion in pretty much any direction. Full rotation at the biceps, 2 elbow joints. That's nice. Not something I'd normally expect out of a Dinobot. He has waist articulation, but that little cleanup thing, that has to go in order for him to fully utilize it. Universal hips. Listen to that detenting. You can definitely tell he's supposed to support a lot of weight. Detents in the knees as well to go 90 degrees. Grimlock is a very articulate boy with some very, very solid joints. There's spring-loaded stuff, there's ratcheted and detented stuff, and it all works very nice to create a very, very solid robot mode, which is what you want out of a character like this. And then there's these stupid things again that form up on his forearms. Now, luckily here they come across as gigantic digger claws or just big punching mitts. So at the very least, they work better, but it's still a little bit iffy. They are meant to support a Titan Master, by the way, or a Prime Master. I'm still not used to saying that. So you can fit one inside each. But what they really are, just like the hands that come with the deluxes, are feet for the combined mode. So let's see how fast I can get him into that form here. Luckily, the legs are pretty easy. I'm going to rotate that around and just kind of angle the legs correctly, and that's pretty much what he's going to look like from the waist down. So beyond that, you have to disconnect him like so, flip him down. His torso will now connect to the front like that. Head goes back down. I'm going to go ahead and flip that down for now. The arms, whew. The arms are going to fold in like so. You're going to need these arms flipped all the way around like that. You'll find a tab here and a peg in there. So make sure that all lines up. Arms folded to the back like so. A little bit tricky to get everything aligned, but nothing too bad. This goes down. You'll find tab ends, which will hold this more securely into place. Not a whole lot you can do with these little tiny dinosaur arms, so I kind of fold them back like this just so they have a little bit of flow to them. And then the epic head reveal. We need to get this panel up, and then we can raise the head up and then fold that panel back down to fill up the gap. And that is going to be the torso mode of Volcanicus, the new Dinobot Combiner, which I will give you this right now. This forms way more solidly than I expected. You saw how many tab ins there are in order to make everything shore up. It works very well. So credit where credit's due. Hasbro made sure that this thing could hold together. Beyond that, taking a look at the head, he has a very much a Grimlock thing going on. That's one thing that a lot of the Power of the Prime Combiner torsos are doing. It's just the torso's head, but fancier. And this has a little bit of that King Grimlock from the comic book things going on with a bit of a crown, but I definitely wish they had tried a little bit more than just meaner Grimlock. You know, I kind of wish there was a little bit more identity to Volcanicus now that we finally have a Dinobot Combiner. Oh well, it is what it is. So as it stands, it's a pretty solid and pretty good looking torso. The one thing is you're going to have this one aspect where the arms are going to be floating way out from the main body of the torso. If I can, there we go. So yeah, there's a lot of distance between the arm and the actual body. Now, the way that this toy works is there are peg-ins on the sides here where you can actually peg in the spare hands that will be left over when you have all 4 Dinobots, and that will fill out his torso and make him look a little bit thicker, and that definitely helps. But for what he is, he's actually a lot better than I expected him to be, so credit where credit's due. I didn't think it would work, but it works. And it also includes something else. So, like all the torsos, he comes with a little block that is apparently a matrix core of some kind. This will fit inside the leader class matrices and can fit like so inside Dinobot. It's mostly just to give you something for the Combiner mode's matrix slot, or what is actually a Prime Master slot. So Prime Masters will fit in there as well. It's how Combiners can adapt to the Prime Master gimmicks of the toy line. But, yeah, it's a little bit weird. It's just basically Grimlock just chomping down on a god, which is something Grimlock would do. So there you go. And now it's kind of awkward because we've reached the end of the review and I like to pose the toy in his robot mode in some nice little way. but I don't want to take the time to transform him back. So we are left with a 40% of Volcanicus as our final shot. Power of the Prime's Grimlock is a fairly solid toy. The Beast mode unfortunately suffers, so that the Combiner mode can be better than I really expected. But in between, you get a really, really nice looking G1 Grimlock that satisfies all of my needs that the recent previous iterations like Classics and Fall of Cybertron have really failed to hit. It gets me right in the nostalgia and is what I want out of a modern Grimlock. So, at the very least, this is the one I think had to be on par. This is the one that had to be correct the most. And credit to Hasbro. They didn't do too bad of a job.